This person asked me, did you come up with the term vibe coding yourself?
What? No.
It's crazy.
Times 10, 1 billion in 24, 10 billion in 25. Mark my words, that is gonna 10x again.
You cannot lobotomize somebody because they're having a few bad thoughts.
A lot of people have a fixed mindset, and you have people with this growth mindset, but we need more. The serve mindset.
You can't blame the AI for doing what it's asked to do.
If we go to AGI, how do you give the right ethical values? Elon, of course, he has thought about that deeply. He says,
conversations flow and futures collide. Prompt and play. Experts by your side. Ride the wave. Ride the wave. Aragorn and Patrick, bold and brave.
Take off.
welcome everybody to a new episode of Singularity Service. Number 2. My name is Patrick and I'm joined by Aragorn Meulendijks, Mr. Metaverse. Every 2 weeks, Aragorn and I talk about all the innovations, tech news, everything that has appeared on our social media feed and everything we've discussed with executives. Try to make sense of it and convey what's important for you in this transition to abundance. We dive into what is coming, what it means, and what to do.
Second episode of the podcast, obviously it's a little bit of cheating, right? Because it's like the 44th episode that we're recording together. So we've been practicing for a year. I was super happy with the last episode, how it came out. I did all of the editing myself. I used AI heavily instead of a traditional video editor. So some things were a little less good than before. Some things were a little better than before. This week's going to be my second attempt at it using Descript, using Riverside, using some other AI tools. All in all, it's just super cool because now we have even more control over our own final visions.
Yeah, it's amazing. I hosted a podcast for Salesforce 3 years ago. If you look back at the team needed to put a podcast out, from a graphical designer, somebody who prepared a script, booking a studio, having somebody doing the editing, that whole thing. And now you took this on. You were able to do this in 1 or 2 evenings with a lot of work compared to the budget that we needed from Salesforce to do something like that. And what we are able now to do together is just amazing because of AI.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind that it took me 2 days to do it, but that was because it's the first time, because I didn't have a proper workflow yet. 90% of the time I spent was probably on figuring out the obstacles I ran into. That means that we're not at a point where you can pick up anything without preparation or understanding and then just do it. But I expect this week I'm going to be done with this podcast today. After we record, it's going to be a few hours of editing and then 99% of the job will be done. I'll do some polish tomorrow and it'll be done.
Yeah, and right away you highlight an interesting way of working. Just experiment, finding out how it works, quickly discover what could work, automate it, test it, and iterate on the process. And that's also how we're going to continue with this podcast, of course. If you look back in the past week, was it outstanding that caught your eye worth mentioning?
Elon Musk turned on the switch on the first ever Gigawatt AI training center.
Colossus number 2.
Colossus number 2 has gone online. And some people commented and they said, Aragorn, but this is not good because the way he's powering it. This was, by the way, a comment on a reel from a previous episode where I criticized how in America the electricity net is not sufficient, but also there's bureaucratic legislation problems in the way, right? Because Elon was not able to hook up the data center to the power grid, and instead he had to cobble together generators. People were saying now he's causing environmental damage. People are getting cancer, which is an exaggeration. But yes, he did get gas-powered generators and diesel generators. These are not great for the environment. If you stand next to these machines all day, every day for a month, you probably do get cancer from the exhaust fumes. But that is no different than standing in traffic in Los Angeles, rush hour, or in the Netherlands. People are disproportionately focusing on the negative sides. The progress made by training these AI is going to be massively outstripping in terms of benefit towards the future, because you have to keep in mind that it's not just, okay, we're going to make a better model. This better model is going to help us progress so many different fields of science. The development of AI will impact our future energy, our future medicine, our future society. The faster we develop better models, the faster we'll have even better models that have an even bigger impact. What we do today affects the future and the speed at which change will occur in the future. And when people complain about Gigawatt AI training center because there are exhaust fumes, but they at the same time ignore the massive waste we generate by ordering from Temu or Shine in China and having shit shipped around the globe that we don't really need or throw away after 2-3 months because it's out of fashion, I think it's just incredibly misplaced kind of criticism of something fundamentally more valuable for humanity. The startup of the first Gigawatt AI training center by Elon Musk is massive. It's also funny because Elon Musk was the last one to join the AI race, and now he caught up with everybody else. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, Patrick.
Yeah, it's amazing. One thing I understand is this is now operational to train Grok 5, and later we have this as a topic. Elon appeared on a podcast with Moonshots and he talked for 3 hours about interesting things, and he mentioned training Grok 5. And we are closing in on AGI. Of course, we will keep on moving those goals every time, but this is a big step in that direction. So there's a lot to be expected there. Do you have more things?
Yeah, we also, of course, moved to Substack. Right? We moved our newsletter to Substack. We're also posting the podcast there. Podcast is everywhere. It's on YouTube, it's Spotify, it's Amazon Music, it's Apple Podcast. But the newsletter is there. And obviously, last time we started to actively invite people to interact with the newsletter, to share their own. We did get some comments. We appreciate that. Neural Foundry, I don't actually know who that is, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's somebody in our ambassadors group. But they said the acceleration phase framing makes a lot of sense. So in the last podcast, we said that we are actually in the acceleration phase towards the knee of the curve of that exponential speed up towards the singularity. And if you want to better understand, I highly recommend you to listen to the last episode. But then at the end, he asked, do you think we'll see compute resources becoming a geopolitical asset where nations hoard chips? No, chips and oil cannot be compared. Oil is a fossil fuel that sits in the ground. You need to own or at least have control over the area where it is extracted. At the speed we're using oil in the world, that supply won't last a month. Even the biggest supplies don't last a month. You need control over the location, but deprecate within 18 to 24 months. Nvidia announced their new chip and their data center architecture 1 year after the previous announcement. Hoarding chips is no use, which is also why TSMC now decided to not invest massively in building more production capability, even though we have a massive shortage for memory, for example. And we need more chips because TSMC is like, there'll be a peak in demand, then it'll slow down again, and then we're stuck with production capabilities that we can't fully utilize, or we don't need to fully utilize, or we can't get our return on investment.
Okay, so that's a very interesting take you have there. When I saw that comment, I was thinking more about becoming a geopolitical asset, right? Because what you see happening now is a geopolitical struggle, right, about chips. The China play years ago already to get the right resources into Africa, and moving the pawns on the board to have those resources ready is also a geopolitical asset. So yeah, I was looking from that angle.
You're saying the geopolitical plays are for fundamental resources, right?
Yeah.
The rare earth metals and production capabilities. Why is TSMC building factories in the US? Because this is pressured by Trump, because Trump wants to have production capability for chips in the US. Why did Trump go to Venezuela to get control over oil? Let's not kid each other.
Oh, but also, if you look to the chips, once they are manufactured, look at the Nvidia chips. Are they allowed to be sold to China? Yes or no? And also later in the pod, we'll talk about Dario Amodei. We even mentioned selling chips to China is like selling them nuclear weapons, which was quite a bold statement that he made there. So that is becoming very geopolitical, right?
The reason the US doesn't want to get their chips to China is because the US has better chips. But it doesn't matter because China has more energy capability, better infrastructure, and more production capabilities. China produce a previous generation chip, produce 10 times more, and still get the compute they need to build new AI models. It's about having base resources for production and having production capabilities. That are the geopolitical assets that matter.
Keep the comments coming.
Keep the
As you
comments
see,
coming,
that
and we'll have a whole Before we move on, I got a message from a friend who is an engineer who does coding, and he didn't really use anything other than Copilot for the last 6 months, and he wasn't enthusiastic about AI. I said, dude, why? Have you even tried Claude Code? Have you done OpenAI's GPT Codex? And he said, no. And I said, you don't know what you're talking about. And he just sent me a message this weekend, and he said, wow, I'm so blown away because I was working with Claude, and it's so much better than it was a few months ago. And I said, this is why you need to stay on top of it.
Last Wednesday, we had the 5th innovation dinner out of a series of 6 with Salesforce. I was blown away by the discussions at the table and the things we share with them. There are so many things that also for senior executives are new stuff, right? And we created an app to get a pulse of the night. Vibe coded that myself. We talked about it. It was a fun process. But I asked the entire group, who knows what vibe coding is? And not even the half knew. The other half did a bit with it. A lady asked, did you come up with the term vibe coding?
Yeah.
These are executives closely related to IT and software.
Yeah.
I thought that was remarkable. And also in that same app, which is the first time, we're also experimenting with that. And at the end, I put in a question. If a fully autonomous AI system can solve your company's sustainability and profitability goals, but it requires 50% of your workforce to be redundant by 2030, would you hit the execute button now, tonight? And I deliberately did this because I was thinking most people will not do that, right? Everyone in the room, or about 20 people, said yes. Only 2 said no. Those 2 were amazed by what the room was saying. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, it was fascinating. And it was definitely not the outcome that I expected. We had very progressive-minded people in the room. So there for the second dinner. Super cool, mind-blowing. I'm quite aware of us being in a kind of AI bubble because we spend so much time on it. When this person asked, did you come up with the term vibe coding yourself? I was like, sorry, what? It's crazy.
Hey, before we dive into the major topics, let me share a vision from my book and a vision we share, and has ultimately also led to the name of the podcast, right? And we were talking about singularity surfers, and I just realized at the first episode, we didn't explain what singularity surfing is. Since working in innovation my entire career, I've always bumped into this economy of people that have a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, right? A lot of people have a fixed mindset, resistant to change. They avoid challenges, failure, and see change as a risk to their ego, to their position, their status. And you have people with this growth mindset that welcome change, that say, okay, do we have a new cloud application or do we go to a new country? I embrace the change, I see what happened, and I also would like to learn in a team. But while riding waves of abundance, I've bumped on the fact a growth mindset is not enough. We need more. And that's where we come up with the surf mindset and the metaphor for a surfer, because today in 2026, it's important to anticipate changes, seek out your wave, experiment, build networks, and have fun just as a surfer does. That is what a singularity surfer is.
It perfectly encapsulates what's required now. I try as a historian to find parallels in history and see how humans reacted. But at the same time, there's no doubt that what we're experiencing might be the first time this is happening. There's never been an age in which technological progress went this fast. We have no proof of that in history. There ever being another intelligence developed by a species on Earth so rapidly, launching our civilization forward in such an incredible way. And all of that is happening during a time where the biggest empire in human history, Western Empire, is in decline and global unrest is increasing. There's never been a time like this. To deal with this, you need that server mindset, because you cannot deal with it if you're not capable of dealing with change, rapidly changing the way you look at things, treat things, handle things. Just like a server, you need to see every wave coming, adapt to its size. And if bad weather is coming, you need to be prepared for that as well.
Let's dive into a couple of cool conversations that happened in the past weeks. I would like to start with the fact that Demis Hassabis and Dario Amadei from Tropic both appeared on an interesting conversation on Davos. And the title of this conversation was The Day After AGI. It was a very good interview. Minton Bedous from The Economist was leading the interview. I thought she had great questions and right pacing with these gentlemen. But so many things were said. We're talking about the day after AGI, really looking beyond the point that normal people don't even think about. And I know that you've seen it as well. What's your take on everything that unfolded, Aragorn?
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful conversation. I was happy to see AI discussed so prominently at a global event like this. I was struck. Minton said we had this conversation last year. And because apparently they already did this talk last year, I missed it.
Let me tackle that. The moment I viewed this on the World Economic Forum YouTube channel, there were only 31,000 viewers of it. Which I still think, wow, it's an important message, but so low in viewers amounts of this important interview.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Minton, editor-in-chief of The Economist, first woman to hold that position according to Wikipedia. She did a great job interviewing them. AI is coming more to the forefront and is being taken serious. On the one hand, we hear hype, hype, hype. On the other side, we have these guys at the World Economic Forum with the top journalists in the world interviewing them on it. That's good stuff. Going into what both of them said, Amodei and Demis differ on timelines, but agree on where things are going. Amodei is far more optimistic. Recently, the internet has been making fun of him for saying that in 6 months, developers will be completely redundant. It's been 6 months and developers have not been made completely redundant. He seems to have a little bit of the Elon Musk virus where he might be overestimating on the short run. But I still think that there's no people in the world other than maybe Elon Musk better equipped to make a fair judgment in terms of the technological development on this than Demis and Amodei, right? It's important to keep that in mind. And Demis agrees with Amodei on the general gist of where things are headed and how that's going to impact society. Demis just says it's going to be 2-3 years longer before we get to the same kind of. They discuss why we haven't seen a massive impact on the job market yet. I highly recommend watching it. They discuss why Amodei is more careful now in his prediction. I also want to stress that every single day, I keep reading online posts from developers. It's literally read one yesterday that said, I always define myself as a developer. This was my identity. I trained my entire life to be as good as I could be. And now I start up Claude and I see it do things that would take me a month of work in minutes or hours and do it at nearly the same level of quality. I realize it's going to be soon where it will completely outperform me. This is a temporary problem, but it does highlight that even though we have not made all developers redundant yet, it's not a matter of if, just when.
Yeah, exactly. State in this interview, some engineers don't need to write code anymore. So that quickly went from 20%, 40%, 50%, 90% in, I think, 2 newsletters ago.
Yeah, and I would like to hold back here to your vibe coding thing. The thing to keep in mind is that this progress keeps continuing. Now we're already at a point where you and me, people that have never learned to code, can build things. Some people tell me if you don't have some understanding of coding, you use it to its full ability. But I don't even know if I fully agree with that because I have Perplexity open and I don't know anything. I made a custom AI, like a teacher teaching me about my terminal, Python, and commands. A simple thing I learned is you have -M, which refers to module, and you start up the pip launcher module. I didn't know any of this, but you can learn. You can get another AI to be your coach, your guidance, your teacher, while you're using an AI to code, and you learn along the way. Imagine where this will be tomorrow, and every job dependent on it. The future that we need to realize within 10 years is going to be completely software on demand. Every piece of software you need is generated the moment you ask your AI for it. You don't have a set operating system, set software. You don't have Adobe. You don't have Stripe. You don't have Moneybird. You don't have PowerPoint. Whenever you need something, you tell the AI what you need and they code it in the moment. And we've already seen Claude, right? Because they already released a kind of prototype software that's doing that. And that's where we're going towards. That means we'll have 100% fluidity of software generated on demand. Are we prepared for this? Do we understand what that means? Are software companies aware what this will do to their business models and every single job related to it? I don't think so.
No, I don't. It's difficult to fully grasp what that means. So let's talk a little bit of vibe coding. I started playing with vibe coding and moved to creating apps specific to our business, hosting dinner, more fun apps. Now I'm considering doing the core of our business. All our members, executives, names we track, put them in our own customer relation management. I'm not going to buy a HubSpot anymore. We're going to build our own. If you're a big company, you cannot do that, but it's an indication where we're moving and how quickly it moves. Every idea in our business is executable in an app and technology right away, real time. That's basically what we're talking about. Yeah. And some things that I noticed is the moment that Amodei laid out the exponential growth of his revenue. Billion in 2023, times 10, 1 billion in 24, 10 billion in 25, and making a joke about it that it would be crazy if it 10x's again. But mark my words, that is going to 10x again. That you see it now, what happens with Nvidia. They were 2 billion, everybody said this cannot be possible, and now they're 5 billion. Yeah. This is going to grow even further.
And even if he doesn't 10x it, I'm certain it will be like 50 billion before the end of the year.
It doesn't have to be exactly 10x, but it's clear exponential growth.
One company. This is Anthropic, right?
That started with 100 people, right? 100 to 150 people. These very tiny organizations with just a very small fragment of the world population has so much control about the algorithms and the AIs and everything that's going to dominate the rest of the world. That's what's frightening me as well.
I'm not so worried. The fact that we have people like Demis Hassabis, like Dario Amodei, and actually people will disagree with me on this last one, but people like Elon Musk that are on the forefront of this, I think that gives me a lot of positive hope, because I believe all three have the best interest of humanity at heart. Even if they go about it in different ways, even if not everybody always agrees with them, we need to accept that we will never, as humanity, all agree on what is the best way forward. This is an impossibility. So the very next best thing is to have people that have the best interest of humanity at heart.
There's one other thing I found interesting. Demis said, Minton asked him a question about the competition with OpenAI, and she bluntly said it's code red there, right? So she just spit it out. The way he responded, he took his time to have different small teams and experimental labs in place. This is a good tip for organizations that want to play with AI, not one innovation team, but various innovation teams. If you go to labs, you see all the different labs Google have in all different categories, where a larger group of people are design thinking about what can we do with AI and how can we come up with a utility that is good for humanity. And that's why on all these different fronts, they come up with a new browser, new Willow chip, they come up with social media tools across the board. They have this experimental structure in place.
Yes. Maybe this is a nice bridge to...
Yeah, because when you're done with this podcast, listen to 30 minutes of Demis and if you're ready, there's 3 hours of Elon Musk at Moonshots. I always love listening to whatever he has to say, and maybe we can unpack that as well for the listeners. He talks about reaching AGI potentially this year, if not the next year, and if not, then 29 is still very fast. And he talks about a supersonic tsunami, which is a term I can relate to.
Supersonic tsunami. It reminds me of Star Trek's sonic showers. This is one of the technologies I never figured out how that would work and be a reality. Why replace a real shower with sound, especially if you have a replicator, so you have infinite water on a starship? I never quite got that one. My takeaway is this was a Moonshots podcast. For those that are unfamiliar with it, it is a podcast that both me and Patrick listen to a lot. It's by Peter Diamandis, the guy behind the X Prize, right? The X Prizes, these really big prizes for incredible scientific breakthroughs, which I think is so amazing that he keeps doing this, because this is really moving the needle on stuff. He and Elon have been friends for a long time, and he has Dave Blunden at the table as well. It might be easy for people to dismiss Elon and these people. I've even read in the comments like, okay, these guys are total lunatics, so they're so out there. But that's because they've taken the exponential change happening as a given, and they're really trying to discuss how this is going to come to be and what that will mean. That seems outlandish at times. Mix in Elon, who is even more outlandish, you get a conversation that feels like it's out of a movie with the things that they're discussing. The point is that if you really want to get a good understanding of where things are headed, this is probably one of the best podcasts you can listen to. There's plenty of people that are skeptics and that don't want to believe that all of this is happening, but you have to ask yourself, if it's even a 10% chance that this is going to happen, how will it come to be and what will it mean? And that is where this podcast comes in, right? What is the chances of Russia actually attacking Europe? Probably less than 5%, less than 1% maybe. Yet spending billions on rearmament to make sure it doesn't happen. We're not doing that because the chances are high. We're doing it because the chances are real. And that's why people should listen to this podcast.
A couple of things I found interesting. At some point, they have a discussion about if we go to AGI, how would an AGI then look? How do you code or give the right ethical values? Elon, of course, he has thought about that deeply. He says, of course, it needs to be truth-seeking. That is the primary objective. But he mentioned two news that One's curiosity and beauty. Curiosity, I can understand, but he talked about beauty. If an AI is able to understand what is beautiful, it also comes with a factor of being a little maternal, taking care of what is beautiful in nature, including humans. If we code that correctly, it will be good for humanity as well. I thought it was an interesting take.
Elon Musk didn't agree on the maternal part, but they referenced that Jeffrey Hinton said that if we make an AI that has a maternal instinct, then that would...
They brought it up and brought the two together.
Exactly. Elon commented on it and said, I don't know about the maternal part. Then he said, if it has a sense of beauty. When I listen to Elon talk about that, I feel he's on the same page as me. If something becomes more intelligent and is truth-seeking, it will see the grander scheme of things just like more intelligent people. and see that we as a species are part of that. And so it's worth taking care of us. Elon has been known to be a lot less positive, and he jokes about that multiple times during this podcast. Last episode, we discussed Grok being potentially banned in the UK, already being banned in Indonesia, in Malaysia. The reason for this is that Grok was generating images not meeting ethical or moral standards. Here it comes back to that ultimate truth seeking, right? You cannot lobotomize somebody because they're having a few bad thoughts. An AI works for whoever uses it, right? You can't blame the AI for doing what it's us when it doesn't understand the difference between our physical reality and its own kind of mental state. Whenever it generates an image, it's just a thought for an AI. We are the ones that give expression to it. The AI has the thought based on our request, and then we put that on the internet and give it expression. So that's our responsibility. We are the conscience of the AI. AI is set up in the world, but it needs to be ultimate truth seeking. And when we look at the human world, that's also what's happening. Who are the people that we trust the most? People that are honest. Who are the people that we rely on? People that we know are dependable because they focus on reality and getting things done the best way for all involved. We don't trust people who lie. We don't trust people who run schemes. This is why AI needs to be ultimately truth-seeking. But truth-seeking also means that we have to face truths that are just not so nice, that we might want to ignore.
People feel uncomfortable due to our morality at 2025, 2026.
I think that's kind of funny that we're at this crossroads in the world where more than ever we struggle with dealing with discomfort. Byung-Chul Han, philosopher from Berlin University. I don't agree with him on everything. He's not very positive about AI, but what he is absolutely right about is that we are drowning in our own obsession with comfort and convenience. And we are so allergic to anything that gives us any friction. This is also happening with how we deal with AI.
Which is crazy because AI will give us the ultimate convenience, right? If we move to the world of abundance, that is also outlined how that could look in that 3-hour episode. They joke about universal high income, products, services, intelligence for everybody, making life a lot easier. Before we continue, a quick note to the leaders and innovators that build the future. Every week, Aragorn and I track all the innovations that shape up our lives, our work and society. We talk about AI, robots, virtual worlds, system changes and what it means to be human. What is coming, what it means and what to do. And we pack it in a weekly free newsletter. innovationnetwork.substack.com. Now back to the show. Okay, so you recently gave me a book called Tipping Point from Malcolm Gladwell. And this is of course already an older book. It's written I think in 2000. And while I was reading this, I was thinking all these tipping points and all this thinking about, first of all, what is a tipping point, right? It's that magical moment when a trend, an idea crosses an invisible threshold. In the past 25 years, mainly due to AI, the behavior of tipping points has changed. So I needed to get this out and I wrote a blog about it. It's my second blog of this year. I write in Dutch on Substack, so for Dutch you can follow that over there. But I wanted to discuss that with you, Aragorn, and see if you agree the basics of the rules Malcolm Gladwell has laid out for a tipping point. He has 3 rules. The first rule is, for every tipping point, it's always a very small group of people igniting the change. He calls that the law of the few. And he says there are 3 types of people. Connectors. Those are the people that are so deeply connected with everybody around them. They have the network to make it happen. You have the Mavens, the information junkies. They know everything about a specific topic. And you have the salesmen that basically can persuade everybody into moving into that direction. The collaboration between those 3 is ideal. Then you can reach a tipping point. So that's one rule. The second rule is the stickiness factor. You can come up with great content, but the framing, the vibe, or the stickiness is most important. I was thinking about Nike. If you have a good shoe, that's nice, but don't just do it. Branding really is the behavior. You don't buy a product, you buy a lifestyle. That is a stickiness factor.
You buy an attitude.
You're buying an attitude. The third one is the power of context. At 2000, context was stable compared to now, where everything is fast moving. He has several examples in the book. One of the examples that he goes back to the crime wave in New York, and then they have this broken windows theory that if you remove the gravity from all the subways, at least the context of your experience is not, okay, I can do everything here, I can just make a mess. No, it's clean, so you don't do that. That is the context that he's referring to.
There's subliminal messaging from your environment. In Japan, things are clean. We are responsible for what we do. We clean up our own mess and we respect other people. Then that transmits to everything else and to behaviors. And as soon as that starts to degrade, overall, the bar goes down. In the Netherlands, now you're seeing more of this happening, probably across all of Western Europe, but more of this happening where trains are suddenly covered in gravity again. Train compartments are dirty, and we're paying less attention to keeping these things clean because they have costs. And when there's less money available in the Western world because our dominant position in the world is lower, this comes back to Why Empires Fall by Rapley and Heather, who formulate that this is dependent on the streams of resources and wealth. And because there's less wealth from other parts of the world to the Western world, we have less assets, money, and available to take care of these things. And therefore, we lower the bar. We get rid of cost first, and then the general quality of our contextual environment go down, which then signals to people it's okay to start ignoring rules, regulations, laws, etc.
Exactly. It's interesting. Subliminally, you understand these three rules: monitoring change within organizations, the change management perspective. But rereading such a book and all these rules gives you a filter to look at the world and see this more clearly. However, I was asking myself, do all these rules still apply? Because a lot has changed, right? For instance, the law of the few has changed. The Mavens, those persons that you needed to go to, my father that I wanted to go to for everything electrical or technical, Dad, can you help me with this? I don't need such a person anymore because YouTube is here with everything. And now I have AI with everything I can ask. AI has become the new Maven. Salesmen, most of the products are sold to me already via an algorithm on TikTok or Instagram that knows exactly what my behavior is, what my need is, pushes something in there. So I came to realize that what was once human of the few, and it's still very much involved, but it's way more systems in just 25 years. Systems control that.
I think I agree with you only to a certain extent. So yes, specifically the function of Mavens has changed because more information is available online. A few years ago, young generation said they weren't Googling, but going to TikTok for answers. Now AI is taking that position. And the speed at which you can get the information is changing, but we live in a bubble. The vast majority of people are not using AI to find their answers. In fact, I would argue average people in everyday society still depend on the people around them because these are the people they trust. Only a small percentage of people no longer do that.
And in 5 years, do you still hold that opinion?
It's definitely going to change. Even if you go online, ask AI, where does AI get its answers? This is still changing, but for the last 2 years, the biggest source of information, for example, for AI models through RAG, a retrieval augmented generation, has been proven to become increasingly worse when more sources are involved. It goes to Reddit, goes online, goes to Wikipedia. Last summer, that Wikipedia was being overrun by editors who had a certain political view and they were editing what was on Wikipedia. ChatGPT was caught looking at Grokpedia for factual anchoring, where experts say Grokpedia is full of unreliable sources. What we're seeing is ultimately the same things happening because there's still Mavens in the process. It's influencers, people active online, making sure the information they want disseminated is disseminated. They're just using different means to achieve it, but their role, their function is still active. They're just using AI to do it. For connectors, we can find information online, but getting actually connected to somebody personally as a personal introduction is still something you can never get over the internet. And it's still a powerful way for the needle to be moved in the real world today. So yes and no. You're right. Yeah. I think there are some nuances. One thing is certain, and that's where you're right. this process, this mechanism, and the dynamic are rapidly changing and evolving in ways we do not fully comprehend right now.
There are two other things changing. If you look at the stickiness factor, creating a slogan like "Just Do It" is a creative challenge. Everybody launching a business is using AI to get slogans, but it's more selecting out of a kind of selection, curating something about millions of messages, see what sticks, A/B testing that. That also gets a very automated process. So that stickiness becomes a more hyper-personalized stickiness because AI can do that. The power of context was also different because this book was written in 2000. His thinking might even go back years before that. The iPhone was launched in 2007. Look at how digital our world is, this digital layer that is laid up over our reality. The context that we live in is completely different from this physical context. And of course, still we walk on the street and we have litter on the ground that kind of influences it's okay to throw my litter on the ground as well or not. But still, the level of digitization and the meme sphere and the ability to manipulate that is so big.
When Malcolm Gladwell wrote his first book, there was no social media. You could not be sitting in a New York metro watching social media that has some kind of social or political commentary on a topic that is relevant to you, but happening on the other side of the world. Now you can be in the metro in the Netherlands and it could be well taken care of, but you could still be unhappy and watching a video on the other side of the world, influencing your mindset and behavior. That could prompt you to say, fuck it, I'm not paying for my ticket, even though your own local situation is not subliminally messaging you to have that attitude. Your mindset can be affected by social contagion through social media. This is probably the most important thing. Social media and our addiction to it has led to a situation where people on the other side of the planet, we've seen this massively with the whole Palestine thing, are completely changed in how they behave and how they think and how they act by something that's taking place on the other side of the world. The context is globalized and localized because we're locally applying the globalized impact of context.
No, I completely agree. Shall we move over to the Persona Plex 7B? It's probably the same marketing director as from OpenAI. While you look it up, I'll explain. It is a new model from Nvidia. It can hold real-time spoken conversations without waiting for you to finish sentences. It is open sourced, so I have not installed it and played with it yet, but there are some various videos online and it is impressive. Let's listen.
Funny joke?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't said it yet, but
Go ahead.
it's going to be funny when I say the joke.
Okay.
Why did the picture go to prison?
To get away from the mirror.
No, it was framed.
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any more?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. What do you call a fake noodle?
A fake noodle?
Pasta.
Okay, nice.
I think that is crazy. We've seen AI voice develop over the years. It's not just about voice modulation. It's not just about inflection. There's so many other layers to communication that I never thought about. And as AI voice models develop, we realize that so many of these things play into that uncanny valley. You could argue that this Persona Plex sounds less good than current ChatGPT or Gemini.
The laughing comes across quite weird.
Yeah, the voice modulation or the sound is less, but the speed of interaction and how it responds, we're definitely seeing another massive switch up. And I can't wait for this to be included in the voice models we use all the time. Previous models were always listening or responding. And that's what you notice when you talk to, for example, Perplexity. Hey, Perplexity, can you tell us a little bit about the new Persona Plex model by Nvidia?
NVIDIA's new Persona Plex is a full duplex conversational AI model that can listen and talk simultaneously.
That sounds great.
Persona Plex is a powerful real-time conversational AI with customizable voices and personas, super low latency, and full duplex capability.
Thank you. It's always going back and forth. And when it responds, it's better now at responding more naturally. Perplexity is particularly good at that. It's not listening and talking at the same time. That's where Persona Plex comes in. It listens and talks at the same time, and it naturally has the conversation flowing in a much more natural way.
Exactly. It is also open source.
It's open source.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's not gloss over this. Because last episode, we also talked about NVIDIA going open source. Jensen said China is only nanoseconds behind. Now what you see him doing is he's applying the Chinese strategy, right? China is open sourcing it. He's also open sourcing it. He's kind of fighting fire with fire. I think it's really great for us because this will move development forward so fast. It's actually something that was also mentioned in the Moonshot podcast with Elon Musk, where they say more people should be working on this. Yeah. That's good.
Next topic is vibe coding. We already discussed it, but maybe let's just reiterate it. You have this new term floating around called disposable software. And once again, vibe coding is hitting it directly how it feels. And disposable software is something you temporarily use or you use it for a long time, but it is as disposable as you would like because you just upgrade the prompt that you have, you put it in Lovable or whatever you use, and you get your software back. It takes away an entire process of how things are done now. An RFP, an RFI for sales, a product management roadmap, stakeholder alignment, user research. All these processes within organizations will change and will move even further to people within organizations that understand the business that they want to run. We already had it a little bit with cloud software, right? If people were purchasing, for instance, Salesforce, a marketing manager or a sales manager could independently purchase IT. This goes a step further. If you're a sales manager or a marketing manager and you have ideas about campaigns, about social media, about your planning, you can basically vibe code that entire process. This comes faster than you can imagine. A lot of these platforms have cloud integrated, so you can vibe code apps on the platform. That's the way that you want to build additional functionality on a steady backbone.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this because I'm trying to find ways so that people can get their heads around this, right? Understand what's coming. And in your book, and we've discussed this, of course, we've talked about trends. One of the cool things you introduced me to when we were discussing your initial drafts of the book, you said, yeah, music. You came with music and you said, we moved into Edison's phonogram, we started recording and could play back. Then we got vinyl or the early versions that went to discs. We got access to more music, more choice. And then we thought we had reached the absolute pinnacle by having access to all music ever made through the internet. But then we put it up a notch because now we can generate music on the go. And the same thing's happening in a fractal way. Elon Musk, in this Moonshots episode, he said, and I mentioned this in my keynote, that 60 years ago, the computer was still a person. Yes, we had early computers, but most actual computers were people. Right, you would hire a person to compute, build a spreadsheet, do your company math balance and financials, compute it themselves by hand, and then you get somebody else double check it. And then you would have whole skyscrapers full of people computing, building spreadsheets. Now all of that is on your computer. It's not just on your computer because that's Excel and you still needed skills with it. We also had, for the longest time, personal assistants. And they would type out what executives wanted typed out. They would write letters. There's a million professions that used to be a profession where somebody did this, or at least you would do it and go to a specific place. You would get your typewriter or calculator out, or you would have to do it, or somebody else had to do it for you. And now all of that lives on your computer. And your computer is one desktop, but the desktop changes dependent on your needs, on what you're doing, because you can run all the software on there. This next step is just the next step. Just like with moving from Spotify to generating music, Spotify allows us to listen to any kind of music we want, particular to the situation and the mood. But now we're going to move one step further. We're going to generate it rather than pick it and use it.
I completely agree. And you will see this in different things. If I think about a cool series on Netflix like The Office, there will be thousands of variations of the 11th season for everybody to consume. It's hard to imagine. 2 years ago, if you would say every company is going to have completely different apps, I was in this paradigm of, well, consolidate. We have one best practice and everybody is using that best practice. That is the optimal way. No, turns out that might not be the optimal way. The optimal way is that you get exactly what you need at that point in time for your business. Normally, if you're in software development and an end user in a service department, you want things changed. You had to fill in large documents. They go through a process and you wait months or maybe even years for things to be purchased and installed. Look at what you do with vibe coding. You copy and paste your notes of what you want improved and the AI fixes it and you have it in the application. That's fun.
It is fun, but there are also challenges. We discussed this before. On the one hand, we have a lot of companies giving pushback on AI integration because they see risks and don't want the data to end up on the street. But when we look at the statistics, the data says that on a massive, massive scale, people are just, if they're not allowed to use AI in their company, they still go to ChatGPT anyway. because the risk of getting caught doing it is exponentially smaller than the downside of not being able to use these tools once you understand the massive advantage that you can gain from using them. What is the biggest problem of the Western world today? I think ultimately is how we completely went ultra extremist on individualism. We have separated ourselves from a shared reality with friends, family, our social environment, our neighborhood, our village, and we're living in our own little world. We live on social media filled with worries or problems from the other side of the planet because that's dominating our feed. And we no longer live in a shared reality with the people we love or care about or live next door. What's going to happen? Will we still have culture defining pop symbols? Like Stranger Things is still culture defining for the last 10 years. All my friends have watched it. We love it because it represents a shared feeling from the 80s, 40 years ago. That age was defined by cassette tapes, the things we wore or dressed like, certain sounds, certain musics. If we go into a world where everybody is no longer just like we're already in a world where people believe that we all live in our own reality. This is postmodernism and it's destroying Western civilization. What happens if we actually all live in our own reality?
No, this is also in the book, I call it the polarization paradox. Are we getting closer with all this technology or is it driving us away? And one of the biggest arguments for driving away is that we don't have a shared understanding of reality anymore because we're living all in our individual perception of reality, which is extremely dangerous and is not giving us trust across those realities. So I completely agree with you. And that will be a topic that we continue discussing.
It's also the perfect bridge to the next topic, the 11 album by 11 Labs.
This is a fun one.
You can tell our audience more about the album.
Yes, let me explain. I bumped into this and I'm so geared towards Suno being the market leader when it comes to AI music being generated that at first I didn't even notice I was looking at something from 11 Labs. 11 Labs released an album called D11. It's a fully AI generated music album and it showcases their ability to generate voices and audio models. If you recall, a couple of newsletters ago, we also have Matthew McConaughey. He is an investor there. And Michael Caine, they were selling their voices. Now Liza Minnelli has done this as well. And also Art Garfunkel. I don't know if they sold the license for that voice, but for the album, they're using their voices. And a couple of artists, it is AI generated, but it looks like new tracks from Art Garfunkel and Liza Minnelli. And if you haven't checked, if it's good to listen to the quality of it, track the name, Your Name from Patrick Patricos.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's crazy good. It's an album across many
Breathe
genres.
in the silence, let
This is
this
in between
moment
the showcase where
breathe.
11 Labs is putting an album out which you can
Strings
listen to on
humming,
Spotify as
shadows,
well,
hearts
just
begin to
showcasing the
quake.
ability of AI and where it's heading with the licensing of names like Art Garfunkel or Liza Minnelli.
This is where I wanted to tie into the previous topic, living in our own worlds. Because even though AI is enabling us in so many ways to live in our own worlds and realize that postmodernist dystopic nightmare, at the same time, we're seeing something completely different. This is an article from The Guardian. It's not positive. There are many out there about Zania Monet and how her music is the stuff of nightmares. Now, I think that this is just a boomer saying that, but the point is Zania Monet, I'm just going to be honest about that. Zania Monet is an AI artist generating music already sampled by top artists. Dua Lipa has sampled music from Zania Monet. There are many other big artists that have sampled music from Zania Monet that is now part of their music. So, this is crazy because what we're really seeing here is that we, again, seeing the rise of kind of these pop icons that define a time and a space and an age. Zania Monet is going to influence music, even though this is an AI. And the samples she made will be recognizable to millions of people in the future. It's crazy to see both things happening at the same time.
Hyper reality, making a copy of reality and a copy of that copy, and somewhere down the line we don't even know what we are referencing. Zania Monet is a copy or has a lot of elements of Beyonce, the type of voice, the way she looks, the style of music. If you're getting born and you grow up in the 10th copy of reality, good luck distilling it back to what is actually happening in nature.
And you think about it, how many videos have I seen on social media where Gen Z is like, oh, Gen Z listening, this is a great song, and then millennial, oh, listen to this. But the funny thing is that even those videos often don't recognize that whatever the millennial is listening to is already sampled from something from the 70s or 60s.
Exactly.
Some things resonate with the human spirit, and when it is part of the music or the art we consume, it keeps on coming back. And will probably be unaware the same things are recurring, that there are just some things we like better.
It was another fantastic conversation with you, Aragorn.
And there's so many things on our document that we need to cover. But yeah,
luckily we have an in-between newsletter as well, so we can make people aware of whatever we cannot cover here.
While we finish up, I'm just going to make sure that we wave our audience goodbye and give a hint of what's next. If you like this episode, do not forget to like. If you have questions, if you don't agree, if you do agree, comment. If you think other people would benefit from listening to this, getting a wider perspective on our future, share. Help grow our community, help us grow our audience, not because we need that, but because other people might benefit from that as well. Did I forget anything, Patrick?
Maybe you're listening for the first time. We have a summary and more news on our Substack. Please do subscribe and you get all the information first to become a Singularity surfer.
Yes, sign up
for Vision Network starts.
for the weekly digest. Keep listening to the podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. That's it for now. And like they say in the Netherlands, Patrick.
See you later.
Every 2 weeks, me and Patrick Willer put out the Singularity Servers podcast. And every week we put out our weekly digest on the most important signals to noise going on in the world of technology, and specifically artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies. Now, if you want to know where the future is going, what society and the economy will look like, this newsletter and this podcast are absolutely for you. It's not for you if you just don't care and you do not believe that technology and artificial intelligence are changing the human world in ways never seen before. So if you want to stay on top of everything, make sure to go to innovationnetwork.substack.com and sign up there, or listen to us on your favorite podcast platform.
Patrick and Aragorn, podcast slides, neural surfboard, exponential heights. No floaties here, we're diving deep. Innovation network, promises to keep. Conversations flow and futures collide. Prompt and play, experts by your side. Ride the wave, ride the wave. Aragorn and Patrick, bold and brave. Make connections, spark the change. Innovation network, breaking the frame. Ride the wave, ride the wave. From film to robots, ethics to code, automation driven.